Welcome back everyone, my name's Brendan, and in this video we're going to look at a product called NeverWet and how you can use it in your art to essentially make liquid-based stencils. We've been hard at work on the 36 Days of Type project over the last 30 days. I'll put up the progress of what we've been able to do so far on screen, and I've used this for years. You can buy it at Home Depot or Lowe's or any type of hardware store. I'll put a link in the description if you want to pick up your own. But basically, unlike a regular stencil where you'd have like a cardboard cutout and then you would spray paint through the cutout. What NeverWet does is you can actually adhese it to any type of surface, whether it be, I'm gonna use glass, but you could do paper, you could do cardboard, you can even do clothing, and basically it resists water. And so that gives us a really fun opportunity to make liquid kind of motion-based designs. It's super neat and the results are limitless. In our example, we're going to use glass, and I simply cut out my stencil in paper. You can also use vinyl if you'd like. It's a little bit more expensive and time-consuming, but I love materials that are ready on hand and simple. And I'm going to use glass as my substrate. You can also use cardboard or even acrylic or even concrete. Your imagination is your limit. So I'm going to make sure that this is going to stick to the glass okay. So I'm using double-sided tape and just eyeball it, put it down. And then you will have two canisters in the NeverWet. Step 1 is your base coat, and then step 2 is your final coat. And so you'll want to start with the first one and shake it really good, read the instructions for all of the nitty-gritty, but you'll generally want to stay away 6 to 12 inches and don't overdo the spray and do one coat, and then while you wait, maybe skateboard, why not, pet a dog. You'll do the second coat. I'm going to do 3 coats total, so you gotta buy time, 15 minutes in between. Final coat here. Make sure to not drench it, but basically you'll then have to wait 30 minutes in between step 1 and step 2. This is step 2. Once that's all done, then you're going to peel away at the stencil to reveal the design. I'm using a liquid called Ferrofluid, and this was the first time I've experimented with it, and as you can see, it's going over the NeverWet a little bit more than I was anticipating. And so essentially what I'm doing is I'm grabbing a magnet, because ferrofluid is magnetically charged, and I'm pulling around the ferrofluid from the back end of the piece of glass. And so again, this was my first time experimenting with this, and in my past experience, using water gives more of a resistant kind of quality to the edges. And so here you'll notice that it's going over the edges a little bit more than I was used to in other experiments, but hey, it's all in the fun. So I went ahead and cleaned it off, and this is a second take on trying to experiment with the NeverWet. And here I'm being a little bit more careful this time around. You can see it's still resistant to the liquid, but not quite as much as I thought it would be. But it's super neat to be able to drag the magnet around the back end to almost draw with liquid. It's super fun. I'm going to go ahead and clean this because, again, yeah, just very much experimenting, seeing what happens. You can see that you can pull the liquid. It's so fun to see. I recommend most people probably experimenting with maybe water, and maybe you want to dye the water so that you can see it. This was an example earlier in the project where I used the letter U to do a water resistant technique, and this is more along the lines of what I very much expected from the ferrofluid, but the end result is super fun. I was able to use After Effects and kind of compile it into one big animation, and you can see that it's just like such a cool look that you really can't get anywhere else. This was years ago where I did our logo, and you can see this was used through vinyl, so I got it really detailed. You can see how cool this is. You're throwing water on it and it's showing the stencil itself. This was a recent experimentation with the Ferrofluid, and since the NeverWet didn't work quite as well as I was expecting, I went ahead and just kind of went into other experimentations, which was just to put a drop on the middle and then just move it around to see what I got. This is another angle where I was able to, just from one drop of Ferrofluid, be able to essentially draw with it. And you can see here, while I pull it off to the sides, the liquid really has a mind of its own based on the magnetic strength, and you get these lines that you just simply would never kind of get in any other technique. And I love the randomness. It almost kind of reminds me of Venom and Spider-Man, where it's just kind of creepy, surreal, and also really lovely looking. And then this is a detail where I was able to transfer the Ferrofluid onto paper and use it to pull around and draw. I hope this video was informative and helpful, and if you end up becoming inspired to experiment with NeverWet on your own, I'll put a link in the description of where you can buy it. And if you do end up experimenting, we'd love to see your creations. Make sure to tag us on social media.